After failing to win over the villainess, Chloe, I faked my death and ran. For 7 long years, she never showed a hint of affection for me. I finally gave up and moved to another world. But when my new target appeared, I realized it was Chloe again. I was terrified. "How did you find me?" The girl stood on her toes, wrapping her arms around my stiff neck, her smile innocent and gentle. "You called me a mad dog, so of course I followed your scent to find you, my love. Today was the final deadline. If Chloe hadn't fallen in love with me, I would be dead by morning." The TV screen in front of me was still glaringly bright. Chloe, in a strapless burgundy gown, was elegant, radiant, the center of attention, a world away from me. Standing beside a famous actor, she smiled warmly. "I owe my success today to Mr. Scott's companionship." Her eyelashes lowered, a rare glimpse of genuine emotion. "He is my light." The crowd erupted in screams. The actor, a man named Ryan Scott, lowered his head shyly. "How ironic. My name is Ethan Scott, and I was the one who stood by Chloe for 7 years. I had worked myself to the bone to pay her tuition, and I once drank so much to protect her that I ended up in the hospital with a bleeding stomach. Yet, at the end of my life, I wasn't even worthy of a mention." I glanced at the system one last time in despair. The 0 next to her affection score was still a glaring crimson red. My heart sank completely. "Fine. If we're not meant to be, I won't force it." The system's voice prompted me. "You have one chance at revival. Do you wish to change your target?" I didn't know why I was getting a second chance, but I chose yes without a moment's hesitation. I couldn't handle a dangerously possessive villainess anymore. Last time, the system had let me choose my target freely. Among all the candidates, my eyes were drawn to a girl named Chloe. She was young, but her mission difficulty was marked as S rank, the highest level. Curious, I read her profile. She grew up in a twisted, dark environment that gradually warped her, turning her into a sinister villain. After imprisoning the male lead failed, she committed suicide, a tragic end. I was silent for a long time before finally choosing Chloe. It wasn't because I wanted a thrilling challenge or because I was captivated by her beauty. I wanted to save her. Her eyes were beautiful, clear and serene like untouched water on a glacier. They were innocent eyes, and I didn't want to see them stained with blood. I thought, if Chloe could grow up in a loving environment, maybe she wouldn't turn to darkness. Maybe she wouldn't have to become the monster in her profile. That was the conviction that drove me to her. But I later learned how wrong I was. A monster is a monster. They can wear a mask, but their nature never changes. When I first met Chloe, she was just a little girl. With red-rimmed eyes, she gently tugged my sleeve. "Ethan, I don't have a family anymore. Can you stay with me forever?" My heart melted. Because of those words, I truly stayed with her for what felt like a lifetime, right up until my death. During those 7 years, I shielded her from most of the darkness in her story, getting myself covered in scars. But I didn't care, because Chloe's affection for me was slowly rising. She was becoming a completely different person from the original story. Gentle, polite, well-behaved. When I got hurt, she would hold my hand, her voice full of worry. "Ethan, please don't fight for me. I don't want you to get hurt." My heart would melt completely. It made all the struggles feel worthwhile. But everything changed when the male lead appeared. That man, Ryan Scott, was dazzling, like the sun, capturing everyone's attention, including Chloe's. She started to follow the original plot, constantly paying attention to Ryan, digging up information about him. My heart nearly stopped. In the original story, it was her unrequited love for the male lead that pushed her over the edge into complete madness. She imprisoned him in a basement, lost in a crazed love, and on the day he escaped, she killed herself. I couldn't just stand by and watch Chloe walk down that path. I started to plead with her, urging her to stay away from Ryan. But not only did she ignore me, her affection score for me began to drop daily, until the day the mission ended, when it hit 0. 7 years of effort, and in the end, I still lost to the original plot. What a joke. But at least it was over. I was in a new world now, about to meet a new target. As for what would happen to Chloe in the last world, I didn't want to think about it anymore. I had done my best. The system began to issue a prompt. "Warning, your target is about to arrive. Please prepare yourself." I slapped my cheeks, forcing myself to rally and focus on the new mission. A sophisticated, unfamiliar girl walked lazily towards me, a slight smile on her face. "Ethan, I've been waiting for you." This was my new target, Scarlet. I smiled back, but as I did, my expression froze. The girl's eyes were a deep blue, like a glacial spring on a mountaintop. They were hauntingly, terrifyingly similar to Chloe's. I felt a chill run down my spine. Was this Chloe? I felt a surge of horror and looked closer. But besides the eyes, The girl bore no resemblance to Chloe. Scarlett tilted her head, confused. Ethan, what are you looking at? Thankfully, her voice was different too. I let out a sigh of relief. Nothing. Chloe had clearly left a deep impression on me, giving me a psychological scar. I composed myself and continued reading the lines from the prompt. You're Scarlett? I've adopted you. From now on, you're my family. Hearing this, Scarlett gave a sweet smile. Thank you, Ethan. A wave of unease washed over me. Scarlett's profile described her as a rebellious, hot-tempered, and troublesome delinquent. Why was she so obediently calling me Ethan? I pushed the thought down. The system wouldn't make a mistake. It must be my imagination. Scarlett told me she still had some luggage to pack and needed to go back to her room at the orphanage in upstate New York. I agreed and waited for her in the next room. The director struck up a conversation with me, smiling. Mr. Scott, you certainly have a way with kids. Scarlett was our most difficult child, but the moment you arrived, she became completely obedient. I replied politely, you're too kind. Scarlett has always been a well-behaved girl. The director's eyes widened in surprise. Scarlett? Well-behaved? You must be joking. That girl smokes, drinks, and fights. Her hands are covered in tattoos, and she's as stubborn as a rock. If it weren't for your kindness in adopting her, I'd still be having headaches over her. As she spoke, my heart sank. Something was wrong. None of these descriptions matched the Scarlett I had just met. And her hands were covered in tattoos? The girl I saw had flawless skin. Even if she had them removed, it couldn't be that clean so quickly. That meant the Scarlett I met wasn't the real Scarlett. Who was she? A horrifying thought struck me. I shot up from my chair, offered a quick, apologetic smile to the director, and rushed out of the room. I threw open the door to the adjacent room. It was unlit and dark. The thick smell of blood hit me. An unfamiliar girl lay on the floor, blood streaming from a wound on her forehead. A gruesome sight. Her mouth was gagged, but she was still making muffled, angry noises, her eyes red as she struggled. The moment I saw her, a cold sweat broke out across my body. The rough behavior, the explosive temper, the tattooed hands. This was the real Scarlett. Just then, the soft click of high heels sounded from the darkness. The fake Scarlett walked out. She tilted her head, looking at me as she pulled off a blood-stained skin mask, revealing a familiar face with almond eyes and red lips, looking morbidly dangerous in the dim light. It was Chloe. I stumbled back in disbelief. She was just a character in a book. How did she come to this world? Chloe looked at my panicked face and chuckled softly. Long time no see, my love. As she spoke, she nonchalantly stepped on Scarlett's head, her eyes filled with undisguised mockery. You left me to pursue this piece of trash? The room was terrifyingly silent. I stood frozen, my mind reeling. How did Chloe get here? And how did she know about my missions? Seeing my pale face, Chloe laughed again. Are you scared? I was planning to dispose of this trash quickly to avoid being exposed, but I didn't expect you to walk in on me. Dispose of her? Did she mean kill the real Scarlett? While I was stunned, Chloe's pale fingers pressed against my lips, caressing them as if in longing. But this is good too. It's so much trouble to lower my voice and imitate someone else. Her red lips moved closer to my ear, her voice shedding its feigned youthfulness and returning to its familiar, mature allure. In that case, this piece of trash Scarlett has no reason to exist anymore. My body had frozen when Chloe got close, and I didn't quite catch her last words. I managed to force out 2 words. What? The next second, a sharp, agonizing scream pierced my ears. I snapped back to reality and looked down. Chloe was still casually stepping on Scarlett's face, not seeming to use much force, yet Scarlett's face was already distorted, contorted in pain as blood gushed out. Chloe was going for the kill. I was horrified. In a panic, I grabbed Chloe's arm. Stop! What are you doing? Scarlett blinked, looking almost innocent. I'm killing her, of course. Her tone was so natural, as if she were discussing what she had for lunch. I was speechless for a moment before I found my voice again. Do you know what you're saying? What grudge do you have against her that you'd kill her? Chloe's gaze deepened, a hint of madness creeping in. You left me to pursue her. Isn't that reason enough for her to die? I stared at her, incredulous. For a reason like that, this woman was a complete psycho. The room fell silent, broken only by Scarlett's muffled, angry whimpers as she struggled. She had a fiery temper, and being stepped on and insulted as trash had enraged her. Chloe's brow furrowed in annoyance. Her elegant facade completely vanished as she ground her heel into Scarlett's hand, her killing intent palpable. If you want to die in one piece, shut up. Scarlett convulsed in pain, curling into a ball, not daring to make another sound. I trembled. In my past life, Chloe had always been obedient and gentle in my presence. Even when we grew distant at the end, her attitude was merely polite and cold. She had never shown this unhinged side. This version of her wasn't the girl I watched grow up. She was the dark, obsessive monster from the original story, a complete stranger. Seeing me frozen, Chloe took my hand affectionately. "Ethan, you once told me I was your one and only. Why is there a replacement now?" A lump formed in my throat, and I couldn't speak. She rubbed her cheek against my cold hand, almost like a docile, affectionate kitten if you ignored the blood on her face. But the words she spoke made my skin crawl. The thought of this trashy replacement being pursued by you, hearing your sweet words, it drove me so mad with jealousy that I wanted to kill her immediately, chop her into a million pieces, so she'd never dare get near you again, not even in her next life. As she spoke, Chloe's beautiful face twisted, overflowing with a sick, crazed energy. The more I listened, the more I trembled. I snatched my hand away from hers and spat through gritted teeth. "Chloe, you're an incurable mad dog. How did you find me?" I turned to unlock the door, desperate to escape this suffocating place, to get away from this lunatic. But just then, a wave of weakness washed over me. My body went limp and I nearly collapsed. A pair of pale, slender arms wrapped around my neck, pulling me into an embrace. Chloe caught my limp hand and brought it to her lips for a light kiss, her tone playful. "You called me a mad dog, so of course I followed your scent to find you, my love." She had a faint, sweet fragrance. As I got closer, the strength drained from my body even faster, and my mind grew hazy. Something was wrong. This scent, it was like a drug. It had been lingering ever since I entered the room, faint and almost unnoticeable, but the smell of blood and my own panic had masked it. I fought through the dizziness, demanding angrily, "You drugged me." Chloe had calmed down. She reached out and gently covered my eyes, her voice returning to its usual rational tone. "It's just a harmless hypnotic agent. Just get some sleep for now. I have a surprise for you when you wake up." Before my vision went completely dark, I saw her give a chilling smile. "Sweet dreams, my love." I did dream. One afternoon in my past life, a young, beautiful girl stood under a canopy of wisteria, asking with some confusion, "Why did you plant so much wisteria in the yard?" I was busy watering the plants and answered casually, "Because it's cheap." The girl chuckled. "What's your favorite flower then? When I start making money, I'll fill our home with it." I couldn't help but laugh. "When you're grown up and making money, you'll still want to live with your big brother?" The girl froze. After a moment, she lowered her gaze and said earnestly, "Ethan, I remember on the first day you adopted me, you said you'd stay with me forever." Under the soft sunlight, her eyes shone with a fiery, sincere light. "So, I want to stay with you forever too." My heart skipped a beat. A breeze rustled through the vines, and a few pale purple petals fell onto my head. The girl stood on her toes, reached up to brush the petals from my hair, and stared at me without blinking. "Since you like wisteria, I like it now too." I could almost hear my own heartbeat. That was the Chloe from 7 years ago. I had truly, genuinely loved her, not because of the mission. I had even pleaded with the system, asking if, after the mission was successful, I could stay in that world and live out my life with her. But before the system could agree, Ryan Scott appeared. He was bright and charming, as magnificent as a rose, and he captured all of Chloe's attention. Then, Chloe used her first paycheck to buy 99 bouquets of roses for Ryan. She smiled at him warmly. "Roses suit you, Ryan." Later, she became the CEO of a newly listed company in San Francisco, and Ryan became a superstar actor. The news that she had built him a massive rose garden spread across the country, and the promise made by the girl who wanted to be with me forever, who wanted to plant a house full of wisteria, was gradually buried and forgotten, remembered only by me. When I woke from the dream, I still hadn't fully recovered. Scenes from my past life flashed before my eyes, leaving me breathless. Just then, a hand gently touched my face. Chloe was sitting on the edge of the bed, softly wiping the corner of my eye. "Ethan, why are your eyes red?" I was startled. Had I been crying? I snapped back to reality. That wasn't the point. The point was, where was I? Only then did I notice I was lying on a large bed in a room filled with opulent, expensive decorations. The light cast a cold, sterile glow, making the space feel cold and unfamiliar. I had no idea where Chloe had taken me. I looked up at her. She still had a faint smile on her lips, as stunningly beautiful as ever, but her eyes were now inscrutable, devoid of the sincere passion they once held. She was a completely different person. Chloe got up and brought me a glass of warm milk, offering it to me thoughtfully. "Did you have a nightmare, my love? This should help you feel better." I didn't take it. If she could put drugs in a fragrance, she could put them in milk too. I calmed myself and stared at her warily. Chloe, what do you want? I'm certain I never did anything to wrong you in our past life. Do you really have to chase me across 2 lifetimes just to ruin my life? Chloe's smile seemed to freeze. After a long moment, she spoke softly. What if I told you I just wanted to find you and be with you forever? Would you believe me? The answer caught me off guard. If it weren't for the fact that her affection score was 0 in our last life, I might have actually thought she liked me. I let out a cold laugh. You want to be with me forever? Weren't you the one on TV saying you owed your success to Ryan Scott's companionship? Now you need my companionship. Chloe suddenly burst out laughing. Oh, you mean Ryan? She tilted her head, her expression innocent. Don't worry about him, my love. He's already dead. Before I could react, Chloe stood up and said with a cheerful smile, Oh, right, I said I had a surprise for you. But since you're in a bad mood, I'll bring it out early. As she spoke, the large, ornately carved doors swung open. A group of bodyguards silently entered, dragging a limp man behind them. The man's face was deathly pale, and he was no longer breathing, but his eyes were wide with terror, as if he had seen something horrifying before he died. In that instant, a cold sweat drenched me. The blood rushed to my head, and my limbs turned to ice. Because that man was, impossibly, Ryan Scott. My heart pounded in my chest. I'll admit, I never liked Ryan, but he hadn't done anything wrong, and I'd never hated him. But now he was dead. Looking at the body on the floor, I felt a sense of absurdity. The brilliant, powerful male lead, dead at the hands of the woman who loved him most. It felt like a story with a rushed, botched ending, surreal and unbelievable. Just then, Chloe whispered in my ear, Ethan, you seem to have misunderstood something. When I was giving my thanks in the media, I always said, Mr. Scott. I was always referring to you, Ethan Scott, not Ryan Scott. Her voice was sweet and melodic, but I couldn't hear it anymore. To me, it was the voice of a demon. Chloe had even killed the male lead she supposedly loved. What else was she capable of? No wonder her affection score for me could drop to 0 so quickly in our past life. She was a heartless monster, born evil. She had chased me down this time probably because she didn't want to lose an interesting toy. The more I thought, the colder my sweat became. No wonder Chloe's mission difficulty was S-rank. A woman like her could never be won over. Chloe tilted her head. Ethan, you don't look very surprised. You hated Ryan, didn't you? I thought you'd be happy to see him dead. A surge of anger rose in me. I gritted my teeth. You're insane. What kind of psychopath is happy to see a dead body? Before I could finish, Chloe interrupted me. It seems this surprise wasn't good enough to please you. My mistake. Butler, bring in the rest of the gifts. A man who looked like a butler bowed respectfully and gestured to the bodyguards outside. The next moment, they dragged in a group of people, all tied up securely with their mouths gagged, only their terrified eyes visible. Among them was the heavily injured Scarlet. A sense of dread washed over me. I turned to Chloe, my voice trembling. What is the meaning of this? Chloe didn't speak. She rose lazily from the bed and walked towards the group. She slowly raised her hand, and I noticed she was holding a gun. The people kneeling on the floor clearly saw it too, and they began to struggle more frantically, making muffled whimpers. The room had become a vision of hell. The immense pressure was suffocating, and I couldn't get a word out. Chloe calmly caressed the gun, then turned to look at me with a smile. Ethan, you choose? My eyes widened. What? Chloe's smile became even more morbidly twisted, her voice as soft as water. I'm saying you pick which one you don't like, and I'll kill them for you. Or, if you don't like any of them, I'll kill them all. This crazy woman. I had a strong feeling that if I made a choice, Chloe would pull the trigger without hesitation. I had to stop her. I forced myself to calm down, speaking as steadily as I could. Chloe, calm down. Chloe looked at me, her expression unreadable. I met her gaze, fighting my own panic. How can you harm innocent people? I taught you to value life. Have you forgotten everything? Hearing the word taught, Chloe's expression softened slightly, but she didn't lower the gun. She put away her smile and said softly, but none of them are innocent. Ethan, haven't you recognized them yet? These are all old acquaintances. As soon as she finished speaking, she viciously kicked Scarlet in the face. It was so sudden that Scarlet was knocked to the ground, the gag in her mouth rolling away. A furious scream erupted. That hurts, you bitch. Chloe, you parentless whore. How dare you treat me like this? The nearby bodyguards and butler turned pale, nervously glancing at Chloe. But Chloe was unfazed. She didn't even look at Scarlet, instead turning to me with a smile. Now, do you recognize her? I blinked, a wave of unprecedented fear and hatred sweeping over me. making my head buzz. I recognized her. In my past life, to protect Chloe, I had silently endured many of the dark plot points from the original story. These weren't just brief mentions. They were a years-long nightmare, incredibly painful. Looking closely, everyone kneeling here was a familiar face. The ones who bullied me in school, the thugs who robbed me. And Scarlet was the one who had caused me the most psychological trauma. With her red hair, she was the aggressive, vulgar leader of a gang of delinquents. After I rejected her advances, she flew into a rage, broke into my apartment, and stole everything I owned. That money was what I had painstakingly saved for a year to pay for Chloe's tuition. I was furious and went to confront her, but that only provoked her further. Scarlet hung a giant banner in the most conspicuous hall at our school. Scumbag Ethan Scott slept with me, ghosted me, and is now harassing me for money. Everyone was shocked. No matter how much I explained, the rumor spread like wildfire. During that time, I couldn't show my face without being pointed at. Look, that's the irresponsible scumbag. Sleeps with a girl and then has the nerve to ask her for money. He's obsessed. I fell silent, stopped explaining, and eventually gathered enough evidence to get Scarlet sent to jail. But even as she was being put in the police car, she turned back, smiled, and flipped me off. Ethan Scott, you dared to cross me. Just wait until I get out. I'll torture you to death. That had become a deep-seated trauma. How could I not have recognized that name, that face? My heart pounded, but on second thought, it was understandable. In this world, Scarlet had been impersonated by Chloe from the beginning. I never had a chance to see the real her, and when she did appear, she was lying in a dark room at the orphanage, her face covered in blood, making her unrecognizable. So the so-called target, Scarlet, was the same Scarlet who had bullied me in my past life. But that wasn't the most terrifying part. A cold sweat ran down my back. The most terrifying part was that I had always trusted the system unconditionally, following its every command. So when the system told me my target was Scarlet, I was only momentarily surprised and didn't think much of it. I assumed it was just someone with the same name. After all, why would the system harm me? Shouldn't it have taken me to a new world to pursue a new character? But now, how could it have sent me to pursue a bully? I frantically tried to contact the system in my mind, but it was completely silent, not a single response. It was only then that I realized the system had been silent ever since Chloe appeared. I couldn't even feel its presence anymore. Who was Chloe? And why was the system messing with me like this? Being betrayed by those I trusted one after another was suffocating. I could barely breathe, my face pale. Meanwhile, Scarlet was still spewing curses, insulting Chloe's entire family tree. Chloe remained impassive, simply turning to me with a smile. Ethan, how about we start with her? But when she saw the look on my face, her smile vanished. In a rare moment of panic, she rushed to my side and threw herself into my arms, gently patting my back like I used to do to comfort her to sleep. Ethan, don't be scared. It's all in the past. I won't let her hurt you again. Even though I hated Chloe and knew her words were probably fake, I did feel a little better. After walking alone in the dark for so long, I craved a single word of comfort, even a false one. Under Chloe's gentle patting, my ragged breathing gradually steadied. Scarlet, having been ignored for so long, grew even angrier. She hated being ignored and looked down upon. After scanning the room, her eyes landed on me. Scarlet sneered, Ethan Scott, so you've latched onto a rich woman now, huh? I tensed up. She laughed even more wildly. You refused to be with me back then. I thought you were some kind of saint. Turns out you just went and got with your own sister. Aren't you disgusting? Bang. The next moment, she stared in disbelief at the wound in her chest, blood spurting out. Chloe, at some point, had raised the gun, her expression icy cold, her beautiful eyes swirling with a storm of fury. Who do you think you are, to even speak his name? Bang. Another shot. The only reason you were alive was so he could watch you die a miserable death. Don't you get it? Your only purpose in life was to die in front of him. Chloe strode forward and stomped viciously on Scarlet's face, looking down at her. Trash. Bang. One final shot. In the end, Scarlet didn't even have a chance to scream before she was killed by 3 consecutive bullets, her eyes wide with disbelief and terror. Chloe seemed annoyed. She waved her hand. Whatever, drag her out. She's an eyesore. The well-trained bodyguards bowed respectfully. The other people kneeling on the floor, having witnessed Scarlet's fate, began to struggle in terror, tears and snot streaming down their faces as they shook their heads desperately. But they were quickly and roughly dragged out of the room. They were reaping what they had sown. Death awaited them. After everyone was gone, Chloe stood by the bed, looking down at me for a long time. Finally, she said softly, I'm sorry. I was stunned. What? Chloe said with rare sincerity. I was going to dispose of them all secretly, but in the end, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand that you were bullied for so long and couldn't witness their end. A flicker of genuine sadness crossed her eyes. So I brought them here on my own. I wanted it to be a surprise for you, but it seems I just scared you. So, I'm sorry. For a moment, it was like we were back years ago. The girl before me completely devoted to me, sincere and passionate, rounding up everyone who had ever hurt me and sending them to hell, all just to avenge me. If she only saw me as a toy, would she go to such lengths? My resolve wavered. If it weren't for everything that happened in our past life, I would have actually thought that maybe, just maybe, Chloe had some feelings for me. I pressed my lips together, unable to speak. Chloe stood up and said softly, "You've been through a lot today. Get some rest. I won't bother you." With that, she turned and left, closing the door behind her. The room was filled with the faint, calming scent of wisteria. Lying there, it was as if I were back in the wisteria courtyard from years ago. I lay on the bed, completely baffled. I couldn't figure Chloe out at all. Why would she do so much for me? Her affection score for me in our last life was 0. Just then, a familiar mechanical voice sounded in my head. "Host, long time no see." It was the system. My drowsiness vanished, and I sat up immediately. "System, where have you been? Why couldn't I feel your presence?" The system interrupted me, its tone grave. "Host, there's something wrong with Chloe." I ran a hand through my hair in frustration. "You don't have to tell me she's not right. Her personality is all over the place. She's completely unpredictable. Anyone can see that." But the system denied it. "I'm not talking about that. I think Chloe can sense my presence, and she can interfere with me." I froze. "And her aura is so strong it suppresses me. I can only come out and talk for a bit when she's not around." The system's voice was filled with an unprecedented level of anxiety. "Chloe interfered with me, making me think I had brought you to a new world with a new target. But the truth is we're still in the original world. We never left," I murmured. "Then what was Chloe's purpose in doing all this?" After a long silence, the system said heavily, "I think Chloe wants you to swap lives with Ryan Scott." My heart sank. I knew that transmigrators could steal each other's lifespans. The winner would get the loser's life, and the loser would be erased on the spot. But this method was so cruel that it had long been forbidden by the higher powers. Besides, Chloe wasn't a transmigrator. How could she perform a life swap? And with someone else's life? The system analyzed calmly. "Think about it. In your last life, Chloe's affection for you was 0, but her affection for Ryan was maxed out. Now that Ryan is dead for some reason, Chloe must be desperate to bring him back. What's more, she can control the system to some extent, and since you and Ryan are both transmigrators, using your life to swap with Ryan's is the most logical choice." Finally, the system delivered the final blow. "So, the reason she went to all this trouble to keep you here, to please you, is to use your life to resurrect Ryan." I felt like I'd been plunged into an icy abyss. "Ryan was a transmigrator too?" "Yes," the system confirmed, "and he's a much higher level than you. You can only transmigrate as a side character, but he can become the male lead directly. Your goal was the same, to win over Chloe. So if one of you succeeded, the other would be erased. So, it was always going to be either me or Ryan. And since Chloe could interfere with the system, she must have known this. But she chose Ryan to live twice. In our last life, she let my affection score drop to 0, almost getting me erased. In this life, after Ryan's mysterious death, she forcibly kept me here to swap lives with him. I was such an idiot. When I saw Ryan's body, I actually thought Chloe had killed him. But thinking about it now, she loved him so much. How could she bear to even touch a hair on his head? It was all an act. So Chloe wasn't impossible to win over. Nor was she a heartless monster. Her heart just didn't belong to me. Seeing my dazed expression, the system tried to console me. "Don't be too sad. Chloe is an S-rank character. Only an experienced transmigrator like Ryan could possibly succeed. A novice like you never stood a chance." Seeing my lack of reaction, the system fell silent. After a moment, it added stubbornly, "But you're my host. I won't let you be erased. You can't just sit here and wait to die." I felt completely hopeless. What else can I do? "Run, of course," the system said. I didn't react at first. "Why run?" "I'm guessing Chloe hasn't fully mastered the life swap method yet," the system explained. "That's why she's trying to keep you calm. But once she figures it out, you're dead. So you have to run now." I immediately got up, asking as I got out of bed, "Is Chloe nearby?" "I can't sense her presence at the moment. She's probably not here." Relieved, I decisively walked to the door and pushed. Surprisingly, it wasn't locked, but the hallway was lined with well-trained servants who all turned to look at me the moment I stepped out. Chloe wasn't here, but all her servants were. What was the difference? My heart started to race. With all these people blocking the way, how could I get out? Just then, a woman who looked like a housekeeper walked up to me with a smile. "Mr. Scott, would you like to take a walk? I can show you around." An idea sparked in my mind. "I'd like to leave this house. Is that possible?" The housekeeper looked troubled. "I'm sorry, Mr. Scott. Miss Chloe has instructed us that you can go anywhere you like within the villa, but you absolutely cannot leave." Chloe was imprisoning me. Since the direct approach wouldn't work, I had to be sneaky. I waved my hand. "It's fine. Don't follow me. I just want to walk around the house by myself." I took a few tentative steps. The servants were surprisingly obedient and didn't follow. Great. I immediately started running on the soft carpet, desperate to get away. But half an hour later, I was still in the villa. The house was as vast as a castle in Beverly Hills, filled with luxurious decorations and endless corridors. I paused, deep in thought. I was lost. Ever since I transmigrated, I had lived with Chloe in a small, dilapidated courtyard. I had never even seen a mansion like this, let alone navigate one. What should I do? Just then, the sound of high heels clicked behind me. I whirled around and saw Chloe standing on the stairs, watching me with a smile. She was wearing a white bathrobe, leaning casually against the railing, her every move exuding a lazy, harmless air, but her voice sent a chill down my spine. "Ethan, where are you going?" The girl tilted her head, seemingly without any ill intent, but my scalp was tingling. I frantically prodded the system. "How is Chloe here? You said you couldn't sense her." But I was met with dead silence. This useless system, it always crashed whenever Chloe was around. Seeing that I wasn't answering, Chloe slowly descended the stairs. "You're not thinking of running away, are you?" Her sudden question made me break out in a cold sweat. I knew I couldn't say yes. I had to think of a good excuse, fast. Chloe walked up to me and lifted my chin with her hand. "Ethan," but she stopped mid-sentence, because I had suddenly grabbed her by the collar and, taking her by surprise, kissed her. I had never kissed anyone before, so it was clumsy and awkward. I just pressed my lips against hers for a moment before pulling away. Chloe was stunned. She stood there, frozen, for a long time. I sneered inwardly. Since she loved Ryan so much, this would surely disgust her. Maybe she'd even throw me out in disgust. So I went all in, shamelessly spewing nonsense. "I wasn't trying to run. I was wandering around because I was looking for you. I couldn't wait to see you. That should be enough, right?" I took a deep breath. The words were so embarrassing even I cringed. Chloe must be even more repulsed. Just kick me out already. Under my expectant gaze, Chloe slowly looked at me. Her usually clear, beautiful eyes darkened, swirling with an emotion I couldn't understand, something restrained. My heart skipped a beat. Did I overdo it? Was she going to kill me? But to my surprise, she wrapped her arms around my neck and, without warning, kissed me back. Unlike my kiss, hers was fiery and wild, her eyes burning with a silent, surging passion. I stared at her, shocked. What was happening? This wasn't how I imagined it. My face flushed, and I instinctively tried to push her away, but Chloe pressed herself against me, refusing to back down. "I wanted to see you too. So much, my love." I don't know how long we kissed before she finally pulled back slightly. My mind was a complete blank, stunned by the sudden intimacy. The next moment, Chloe leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Thank you, Ethan. Even if you're lying to me, I'm still so happy." How did she know? Her words instantly snapped me back to reality. I quickly and guiltily denied it. "What are you talking about? Why would I lie to you?" Chloe stared at me for a moment before finally looking away. Good. Did I get away with it? Just as I was secretly celebrating, Chloe suddenly spoke. "Do you want to go for a walk outside?" I looked at her in surprise, but then she added with a smile, "I'll go with you." But no matter what, getting out of this villa was the first step. Once I was outside, I could find a chance to escape. So I nodded. It was already dark outside. I sat in Chloe's car, feeling a bit awkward. I feigned a casual tone. "Where are we going?" Chloe chuckled, seemingly in a good mood. "Home. Wasn't that villa her home? Or did she have another one somewhere else?" I suddenly felt a pang of jealousy. There are so many rich people in the world, why couldn't I be one of them? I said with a hint of sourness. "You have so many homes." Chloe glanced at me. "It's not just my home, it's yours too." My brain shut down. What did that mean? Just then, the car stopped. Chloe got out and opened the door for me, her voice incredibly gentle. "We're here." I got out of the car, confused, but was stunned by the sight before me. It was the place where Chloe and I had lived in our past life. A familiar, narrow, and dilapidated alley in a quiet suburb outside of Chicago stretched before me, a stark contrast to Chloe's now elegant demeanor. But Chloe took my hand and led me into the alley. "Come with me." As I walked, my heart began to pound, not with excitement, but with fear and anxiety. This dark alley held many memories for me, most of them bad. I had been cornered and robbed here by thugs, and beaten up by bullies. At my lowest point, I had huddled in a corner here, wondering if I would just die. The memories made my palms sweat. Chloe seemed to sense my thoughts. She tightened her grip on my hand and whispered comfortingly, "It's okay, Ethan. Those people are all dead now." What a direct and brutal way to offer comfort. But as the warmth of her hand spread through mine, my anxiety did begin to fade. For some reason, even though the system had warned me this woman was dangerous, I instinctively felt that, at least in this moment, she didn't want to harm me. At the end of the long alley, lights flickered. But unlike normal lights, these cast a pale purple glow. I held my breath. In the dilapidated courtyard before me, the wisteria was even more lush than when I had left, forming a sea of purple flowers. Under the lights and the moonlight, it was breathtakingly beautiful. Chloe closed her eyes and stood on her toes, placing a soft kiss on my cheek. "Welcome home, my love." In that moment, it felt like I was back 7 years ago. The girl under the wisteria and the Chloe before me merged into one. My eyes stung, and I felt a strange urge to cry. We had only lived in this house for 3 years. For the next 4, to give Chloe better opportunities, we moved to a big city, and after that, we went our separate ways. I hadn't been back to this home in a long time. I thought the wisteria would have died long ago, but someone had taken very good care of it. Chloe gently caressed the flowers. "I was going to show you this surprise later, but it seems we're out of time." What did that mean? Before I could react, she kissed me again. "I've made it obvious enough, haven't I, my love?" Our hot breaths mingled, weaving an intoxicating net that enveloped me, leaving no room to escape. "I've always loved you. How could you not see it?" At that moment, my heart was pounding like a drum, and my mind slowed to a crawl. "Host!" Just then, a sharp voice suddenly rang out. The system had appeared out of nowhere, shouting excitedly. I finally broke through Chloe's suppression. His words came out like rapid-fire gunshots. "Host, I can only hold on for a moment. This is the perfect opportunity. Stab her while she's not looking, and you'll be safe." The next moment, a dagger materialized in my hand. "This is a new item you've unlocked. Do it now." My hand started to tremble so badly I could barely hold the knife. No, I couldn't do it. I had finally gotten a chance, but looking at the familiar face before me, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I hid the knife behind my back, a deep sense of helplessness washing over me. "Chloe, you know I'm a transmigrator, right?" Chloe froze. The question was abrupt, but she slowly nodded. I continued, my voice trembling. "Then do you know that Ryan was a transmigrator too? Do you know that I would die if I failed the mission? Why did you want me to swap lives with Ryan?" In the end, I clenched my fists tightly. "Chloe, do you really love me? You've hurt me so many times. How can I believe you?" Chloe's eyes were filled with an emotion I couldn't decipher, a mix of heartache, helplessness, and endless sorrow. She spoke softly. "I knew Ryan was a transmigrator. I knew you would die if you failed. And yes, I made you swap lives with Ryan." Hearing her answer, I let out a self-deprecating laugh. What was I even hoping for? After 2 lifetimes, I was still so stupid. But the next moment, Chloe added firmly, "But you're wrong about one thing. The reason you weren't erased after failing the mission last time, the reason you had a chance to be revived, was because I swapped Ryan's life with yours." She said each word clearly. "So he was erased in your place. I never loved him, and I never wanted to revive him." I stumbled back in shock. How was this different from what the system analyzed? Chloe took a step forward, her eyes full of bitterness as she took my hand. "Ethan, do you really trust that machine more than you trust me?" I was flustered, not knowing how to answer. Chloe chuckled softly. The next moment, hot blood splattered onto my face. My pupils contracted in disbelief as I looked down. Chloe had taken my hand and plunged the dagger into her own heart. The system was also shocked, its incessant chatter instantly silenced. She gently reached up and wiped the blood from my face. "Now, does this prove my love for you?" Her soft fingers caressed my face, full of longing. My heart nearly stopped. I instinctively tried to cover the bleeding wound, but it was useless. Blood seeped through my fingers, dripping to the ground, each drop suffocating me. Chloe said softly, "Ethan, I never wanted to hurt you. The ones who wanted to hurt you were always the system and Ryan." In my panic, I didn't understand what she meant. I just fumbled for my phone, trying to call for an ambulance. But just then, the system blared a loud alarm. Warning, warning. Character Chloe's life force is dropping rapidly. The drop is about to trigger a collapse of this dimension. Host, please evacuate with me immediately. Usually, the system spoke directly into my mind, but this time, whether out of urgency or something else, its voice rang out in the real world. Chloe managed a cold smile. Panicking now? It's useless. Ryan is already dead. You're next, system. A crazed look spread across her eyes again. Ethan can leave, but you have to stay here and die with me. You crazy woman, the system shouted in anger. It instinctively tried to flee, but it was held in place by some unknown force. Chloe coughed up a mouthful of blood, ignoring it as she looked at me tenderly. She said earnestly, Ethan, being a transmigrator must be so wonderful, right? Not only do you meet psychos like me, but you also have to pursue scum like Scarlet, all while facing the constant risk of being erased. My hands trembled, but I had a strong feeling that if I didn't say it now, I would never get the chance to tell Chloe. So, I finally broke down and shouted, yes, I hate this transmigrator life. If I could, I would want to live a normal life. Chloe started to laugh, but as she did, she heard me continue. But, I don't regret meeting you on this journey. Even though it was hard, as long as I was with you, I was happy. Actually, I took a painful breath. I love you. How could I not love you? After 7 years of being together day and night, this scorching, suppressed love had seeped into my very bones. Chloe was stunned. She seemed not to have expected me to say that. Her eyes reddened, and her voice trembled uncontrollably. Really? With those words, I can die without regrets. The next moment, Chloe stroked my head. But even if you don't regret it, I still feel for you. I don't want you to be manipulated by the system anymore. She gave a gentle smile. So, I will detonate this world and take your system with me. Go back to your real home, my love. My eyes widened, tears instantly blurring my vision. No, I want you to come with me. But the next moment, my body went limp, the strength draining out of me. I realized then that the scent of the wisteria around us was the same as the drug Chloe had used on me earlier. Chloe's face was pale, but she managed a weak smile. Just noticed? You need to be more careful in the future, my love. What will you do if you run into bad people? I wanted to reach out and touch her, but I had no strength left. Before my consciousness faded, I saw Chloe smile at me. Just get some sleep. There will be a surprise when you wake up. In that moment, her eyes were filled with a clear, passionate love, as if she were the same girl from 7 years ago. Sweet dreams, my love. Chloe hated transmigrators. They always came with a machine called a system, intruding on her already chaotic life. She couldn't remember what the first one was like, but she remembered the day he walked up to her, his tone arrogant and condescending. Chloe, I know your life is a mess. I'll get you out of it. Chloe found it amusing. Her life wasn't a mess. It was a venomous pit. Her father had abandoned her mother while she was pregnant. Her mother, in turn, descended into a spiral of tears and mental breakdowns, taking all her pain out on Chloe with daily beatings. She finally died in a drunk driving accident. This kind of life could drive a person insane. How could a transmigrator possibly understand? Sure enough, after helping Chloe for a few days, the first transmigrator became a target himself. He was bullied by thugs, ostracized by classmates, and after a few days he couldn't take it anymore and transferred schools. On the surface, he was still nice to Chloe, but in his mind he cursed to the system. Chloe is such a jinx. No wonder her parents are both dead. At this rate, I'm next. Chloe didn't tell him that she could hear his conversations with the system. She just found it amusing. Wasn't he the one who insisted on saving her? Why couldn't he handle it? Later, when the system announced that the mission time was up, his affection score was still at 0. The transmigrator cried, Chloe, don't you have a heart? I've done so much for you. Why don't you love me? Chloe didn't know. But watching the transmigrator's face twist in agony as his soul was ripped from his body, she found it quite entertaining. It seems she really didn't have a heart. After the first transmigrator died, the story reset. A new one arrived. He proudly slapped a love letter on her desk. From now on, I'm your boyfriend. By the time the next one came, Chloe was lighting a cigarette in annoyance. It must have been the 20th one. First, it was interesting, but by now, she was just sick of it. These transmigrators would always act foolishly, trying desperately to impress her, only to be erased, causing the whole story to start over. This dark life repeated itself over and over. Immersed in a violent, twisted environment, Chloe could feel herself becoming more and more unhinged. Her mission difficulty level even rose from E to S. To this day, No one had managed to get her affection score above 0. So, when the story reset once again, Chloe thought through gritted teeth, when the next transmigrator dies, I'm going to record his screams and listen to them on repeat. Just then, a hesitant voice interrupted her thoughts. Hi, my name is Ethan. Chloe expertly shed her morbidly persona and put on a pitiful mask. Ethan, I don't have a family anymore. Can you stay with me forever? This line could move almost any transmigrator's heart. And sure enough, the man before her, Ethan, was moved. He gently patted her head. Okay, but Chloe didn't expect that Ethan would actually stay with her for 7 years, defying death, all for that one promise. After Ethan was bullied for the first time, he hid in his room, secretly applying medicine to his wounds. The system eagerly prompted him. What are you doing with that medicine? Hurry up and show your wounds to Chloe. She'll feel so bad for you. Chloe stood outside the door, listening with a cold sneer. Why would she feel bad for Ethan? These transmigrators were a dime a dozen. Why should she care? But Ethan was confused. Why would I want her to feel bad? The system was exasperated. Are you stupid? Women love a man who gets hurt protecting them. Her pity is the first step to love. But Ethan shook his head in disagreement. What are you talking about? If you love someone, you should want them to be happy. Why would you want to make them feel sad and sorry for you? I don't get it. The system was stunned. You haven't actually fallen for her, have you? Ethan answered as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Of course I love her. It was so direct. A strange feeling stirred in Chloe's heart. Was this what love meant? A direct, passionate confession, an unwavering choice, wanting the other person to be happy. She shook her head in slight annoyance and turned to leave. Later, when Ethan was beaten half to death by Scarlet, he huddled in a corner of the alley, his head bowed, covered in injuries. Chloe stood in the shadows nearby, watching coldly. She shouldn't have liked Ethan, but for some reason, at that moment, she really wanted to kill Scarlet. Just then, the system said with pity, Host, this is too much. Why don't we give up on this mission? We can switch to someone else. You've worked so hard, and her affection score is still at 0. Chloe unconsciously clenched her fists. But then Ethan spoke. No, if a side character like me is getting bullied this badly, I can't imagine what Chloe goes through. No responsible adult would just abandon a little girl. I said I would stay with her, and I'm going to protect her for the rest of her life. In that moment, Chloe heard her own heartbeat. It seemed that from that day on, she started to see Ethan differently. His actions, his words, his joys and sorrows began to be etched into her mind. Even her affection score started to climb, almost reaching the maximum. But whenever she felt herself about to lose control, she would immediately douse herself with cold water. No, he's a transmigrator. If the affection score maxes out, he'll leave this world. I can't let that happen. Chloe had to force herself to calm down several times to lower her affection score. This period was a time of intense conflict for Chloe. On one hand, she was happy about Ethan's love for her. On the other, she was in pain from suppressing her own feelings. And that was when Ryan Scott appeared. At first, Chloe didn't pay him any mind. But one day, she overheard his conversation with his system. Ryan was in the equipment room, fuming at his system. What's going on? Didn't you say Chloe was hard to win over? Then how is Ethan's affection score almost full? He's about to complete the mission. What am I supposed to do? Just stand here and wait to be erased. Hearing the name Ethan, Chloe paused and peeked inside. Ryan's face was red with anger. The system was terrified, apologizing profusely. I'm sorry, young master. Ethan has been trying for so long without success. I thought he would definitely fail. Hearing this, Chloe felt a sense of unease. This transmigrator, Ryan, who could make the system grovel and still dare to challenge an S-rank mission, must have an unusual background. Just then, the system carefully tried to placate him. Don't be angry. Don't forget, we still have one other option, the life swap. Chloe's heart raced. That didn't sound like a good thing. Ryan finally relaxed. Right? It's been a while since I've done that. I'll try to win Chloe over first. If I fail, I'll just swap lives with that bastard Ethan. He pushed open the door and accidentally bumped into Chloe, who was standing outside. Ryan was shocked, worried he had been exposed. But Chloe showed no reaction, instead smiling with concern. Hey, are you okay? I didn't hurt you, did I? Her stunningly beautiful face, paired with her gentle, watery voice, was captivating. Even an experienced transmigrator like Ryan blushed awkwardly. Chloe's smile didn't waver, but her gaze towards Ryan was ice cold. She already had a plan. After a few chance encounters with Ryan, she had found out about the life swap method, but she couldn't use it yet. A life swap had to happen between a living person and a dead one. For example, if Ryan failed the mission and was erased, the system could make Ethan swap lives with him, dying in his place. This was how Ryan had never failed a mission before. Other transmigrators thought they were in a fair competition with him, never imagining he had such a cruel trick up his sleeve, and they would die in confusion. Chloe's eyes darkened, but now she could turn the tables. If she could make Ethan fail the mission and be erased, she could then use the life swap to revive him, and at the same time ensure Ryan's permanent death. So, to protect Ethan, she began to suppress her feelings and distance herself from him, while finding ways to pursue Ryan. Ryan was overjoyed, thinking he had won Chloe over with his charm and was no longer at risk of being erased, so he stopped thinking about the life swap. But Chloe thought about it every moment. Her gaze towards Ryan held no love, only a dark, vicious intent. But even so, Ryan's affection score continued to rise. Chloe sneered. Emotions were the most unpredictable things in the world. Love, hate, resentment, regret, possession, all these feelings were intertwined. How could a machine accurately measure them? The system's affection score was based solely on outward behavior. A few false words of love and the score would rise. How foolish. But even thinking this, when Ethan rushed to find her, and she saw his affection score was below 60, her heart ached. Faced with Ethan's confused questions, she couldn't say a word. She could only suppress her own intense feelings and pretend to be cold as she sent him away. Finally, Ethan left with a pained expression. Chloe clenched her fists so tightly, her nails dug into her palms, drawing blood. Just wait a little longer, my love. Please don't be disappointed in me. I should be able to express my love for you again soon. On the day Ethan's mission deadline arrived, she was with Ryan at a press conference. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. It was a call from Ethan. Chloe's eyes instantly reddened. She knew her love couldn't complete the mission and was about to be erased. And she couldn't even tell him her true feelings in the end. Just then, someone asked, "Miss Chloe, now that you've come so far, who would you like to thank the most?" An idea struck Chloe. She took a deep breath, suppressing a tremor in her voice. "I owe my success today to Mr. Scott's companionship." She hid her secret, obscure love in her words, hoping that Ethan, on the other side of the TV, would feel it. Then, with rare genuine emotion, she added, "He is my light." The audience screamed, completely caught up in the romance. Even Ryan smiled shyly. Just then, his system excitedly reminded him, "Young master, Ethan failed the mission and has been erased. You can rest easy now." Ryan let out a long sigh of relief. Good. Now no one will compete with me for Chloe. But his smile vanished before it could fully form. His soul was suddenly and violently ripped from his body, an excruciating pain. Ryan collapsed to the ground, roaring in his mind, "What's happening?" The system was silent for a long time before it finally answered, its voice trembling with fear. "Young master, we've been life swapped." Ryan was already delirious with pain, but he still managed to say in disbelief, "How is that possible? Who would be so bold?" Chloe smiled faintly. In a corner hidden from the cameras, she leaned in close. "Go to hell with your system, Ryan." Ryan was stunned and slowly looked at Chloe, but before he could struggle to speak, Chloe covered his mouth in disgust. "Just die already. Don't waste my time. I have to go see my love." In the end, Ryan's face was contorted in a hideous grimace, and he died with his eyes wide open, his breath gone. The whole process took less than a minute. Amid the chaos, Chloe pretended to be panicked and rushed off. "Mr. Scott seems to be having a heart attack. I'll go find a doctor." Then, out of sight, she raced towards the place where Ethan would be reborn. Chloe's heart was full of anticipation. She couldn't wait to confess the love she had hidden for so many years. But when she learned that Ethan's new target was Scarlett, she froze. Scarlett, the one who had bullied him. This useless system had no good intentions. How devastated would Ethan be when he found out who his new target was? That day, Chloe finally grew tired of this world. She thought listlessly, why did Ethan have to be controlled by the system for his whole life? Why did he have to be forced to pursue all sorts of people, unable to have his own freedom? Why was he always facing the risk of being erased? Instead of letting him live a life like that, it would be better to just detonate this world, blowing the annoying system, the endless cycles, and her increasingly unhinged self to smithereens. And so, later, Chloe did just that. After killing every single person who had ever hurt him, Chloe, with her blood-stained hands, gave Ethan a brand new life. She plunged the knife into her own body without hesitation. Seeing Ethan's panicked and heartbroken face, Chloe gently wiped away his tears. "Don't cry. She remembered Ethan had said that if you love someone, you should make them happy, not sad. So, Chloe put a harmless hypnotic agent in the wisteria, letting Ethan fall into a peaceful sleep. Then, she forcibly detained the system and, with her bleeding body, sent Ethan to a new world. After all that was done, she finally collapsed in satisfaction, the deafening sound of an explosion and the system's screams in her ears. Chloe smiled faintly. Since I can't marry him in this life, let this grand death be my dowry for the next. When I opened my eyes, my head was still fuzzy. I felt like I had been in a long, long dream. In the dream, due to the chaotic timeline, I saw all of Chloe's memories. They were fragmented and confusing, but almost every piece was screaming one word: love. From the initial fiery, sincere love to the later cautious, restrained love, it turned out she had never changed. She had loved me from the very beginning, even to the point of giving her own life to set me free. Just then, my mother's joyous cry rang out. "Ethan, you're finally awake." She held my hand, tears of joy streaming down her face. "You've been in a coma for almost a year. You really scared me." Looking at her familiar face, I finally remembered. I was from a single-parent family. My mother raised me on her own. We were poor, but we were happy. Until one day, a system suddenly appeared, telling me it had bonded with me and I had to complete missions or I would die. So, I traveled through different worlds, becoming a transmigrator, drifting like a leaf in the wind, until this moment, when I finally landed. I looked at my mother and finally broke down in tears, hugging her tightly, feeling the preciousness of this reunion. Perhaps this was what Chloe meant by a surprise when you wake up. My body was fine, and I was discharged from the hospital in a small town in Vermont soon after. It was autumn. In the crisp, cool breeze, wisteria petals danced in the wind, blanketing the ground, a beautiful sight. I asked my mother curiously, "Mom, when did we get so much wisteria here?" My mother thought for a moment. "I think it was just last week. A wealthy woman moved into the neighborhood and had a lot of wisteria transplanted here." She sighed. "It's nice to be rich. I heard she did it because her husband loves it." "How romantic." I smiled and teased her. "Mom, you're not a kid anymore. You still believe in that stuff." It was good to be back. My mother was still the same romantic at heart. Nothing had changed. It was wonderful. She tapped me on the head, pouting. "Don't be a smart aleck. The doctor said you need to get more fresh air so you can walk around here for a bit. I'm going home to make dinner." I nodded obediently, but the moment her back disappeared, the smile on my face faded. Ever since I came back, my mind has been filled with images of Chloe. Her final, blood-soaked smile is something I'll probably never forget. I gently stepped on the fallen petals, walking down the street. The wisteria was light and delicate, clearly well cared for. It was obvious the woman loved her husband very much. It reminded me of a girl years ago who had also promised to fill my home with wisteria, but she never lived long enough to do it. My nose tingled, and tears blurred my vision. I was just an ordinary transmigrator, yet Chloe was willing to give up her life for me. How could someone willingly give up everything for love? Just then, a pale, slender hand gently wiped away my tears. "Why are you crying? Isn't the wisteria beautiful?" The voice was light and teasing, playful and familiar. My heart began to pound. I turned around in disbelief. Under the wisteria, Chloe stood, her smile bright, her eyes full of a deep, tender love. "Long time no see, my love." That day, the wisteria bloomed with fierce passion, as if declaring its language of flowers, born for love.